Some people have asked, could it be possible he could be hiding or scared because he wrecked the car? I can't imagine that that would be true. But if it is true, don't worry about that. The car is just a stupid car. We love you. Call someone, call the police, come home. We just want you home.
Sometimes when I'm researching for episodes, I'll come across cases that have similarities, either in the way that the victim disappeared, the events leading up to the disappearance, or in the aftermath. However, it's very rare that I find a case so eerily similar to multiple high-profile cases as the one that I'm about to tell you. A case that is incredibly similar to the Maura Murray case and the disappearance of Bryce Lespisa. The main difference is that this case hasn't received the same media attention, and that's why I knew that I had to cover it for this week's episode. This week, we're discussing a case that involves a college student, a mysterious road trip, a car accident, and a disappearance that occurred within a very small time frame. On December 13th of 2020, Jason Landry became one of the missing. Jason Landry was a 21-year-old man attending Texas State University in December of 2020. He had just finished his sophomore year, but it was actually his first year attending Texas State as a transfer student, and he had been working really hard to get into a sound recording technology program. Outside of school, he enjoyed spending time with his friends, and he had a contagious laugh that made everyone want to be around him. With the semester wrapping up and the last of his college exams finished, Jason was planning to go home and visit his parents in Missouri City, which is an area in the Houston suburbs about 2.5 hours away from his San Marcos apartment near the school. Jason grew up in a close-knit family with an older sister and a brother. His dad was the pastor of a Presbyterian church in Missouri City, and the family was looking forward to getting together for the holidays. Jason's sister would have been arriving home on the 14th, which was a day earlier than Jason and his brother had planned to arrive after their last exams. Although Jason had enjoyed his first year at Texas State, it hadn't been the easiest semester for him, and he was looking forward to having a break away from the campus for a few days. Jason had been in a serious relationship with his girlfriend, and it seemed like the two of them really loved each other. On his Facebook, you can watch videos of him screaming the lyrics to Hey There Delilah by the Plain White T's with his girlfriend cuddling next to him as they drove down the road together. However, his girlfriend had accepted a job in Georgia that she couldn't refuse, and the two of them decided to go their separate ways. It seems like the two of them continued to have a good relationship and loved each other despite their separation. On the night of December 13th at 10:55 p.m., Jason spoke to one of his friends on the phone and told them that he was headed home for Christmas break. No one exactly knows why Jason decided to leave at this time of night, because Jason's parents weren't expecting him to arrive until the next day, and he hadn't told them he was planning to come early. This friend he spoke to on the phone stated that Jason seemed completely fine and normal, and the drive wasn't that far, so maybe Jason just decided to spend a little extra time with his family by coming home early. At 11:05 p.m., Jason left his apartment in San Marcos and began driving down Highway 80 towards Missouri City. We have this record of exact times because Jason was using the Waze app on his phone, and it pinged in these locations. Jason drove under I-35 and continued south on Highway 80 into Martindale, Texas. At 11:24 p.m., he entered Luling City, still traveling on Highway 80, and he stopped using the Waze app on his phone. At this point, phone data shows that he was using the Snapchat app, but this was the last digital track of him once he stopped using the Waze app on East Austin Street. If you look at Jason's route on a map, I think it's clear that he missed a turn to end up where he did. East Austin Street turns into Salt Flat Road, and there is not a single thing on that road that he could have been driving to. East Austin Street is still part of Highway 80, but it reaches an intersection with Highway 83, and this is definitely where Jason should have turned to keep heading towards home, whether he chose to stay on backroad highways or jump on the Interstate 10 ramp. When Jason missed this turn, he continued on down East Austin Street, which turns into Salt Flat Road. From what I've read of this road, there are no lights and it's almost impossible to see out there at night. At some point, once Jason reached Salt Flat Road, he crashed his car and it was totaled, with the sides pushed in and the rear of the car completely shattered. The car had crashed into 2 trees and a barbed wire fence. I'll post pictures of Jason's route and his car on all of the social media for you to follow along. Jason's car was found at 12:31 a.m. on the 14th along the 2300 block of Salt Flat Road by a volunteer firefighter who was returning from a house call. At the time of the report, the police didn't believe that this was any kind of crime, although no one seemed to be in the Nissan Altima when they arrived on the scene. The car was found with the keys still in the ignition, the headlights on, and the passenger side door locked. The police ran the license plate number and discovered that the car was registered to Jason's father, so they called him to come look at the car and collect it after it was impounded. I've read that no one looked inside of the car until Jason's father arrived, but I'm not sure that this is true based on the dispatch recordings from that night. In the recordings, you can hear the police discussing what was found inside of the car before Jason's father was ever contacted. Either way, a few items were discovered inside of Jason's car that were a little odd. They found his backpack, which contained a small amount of weed, a laptop, and his gaming equipment. Later reports would claim that Jason had a large amount of narcotics on him, but the police have stated that it was just a small amount of weed, and there's even a picture of what was found inside of the backpack that I will share on social media as well. They also found Jason's toiletries and, strangest of all, a tumbler that contained a dead betta fish. I thought that this was extremely strange when I first read it, but after searching on his Facebook, I think I solved the mystery of the dead fish. Jason's ex-girlfriend, when they were still dating, had a betta fish, and there's a very funny video of Jason with his face up next to the tank as if he's trying to talk to the fish. It made me smile watching this video because it made me feel more connected to Jason, and you can get a sense of his contagious personality. Anyway, Jason's ex-girlfriend commented on this video and said that he loved her fish so much that they decided to get him one of his own for Christmas that year. This fish was special to him, and I'm just assuming that he wanted to bring it along as he traveled home. Jason's father traveled to the site of the wreck and searched the area with the police. 900 feet away from where Jason had crashed, his father had found his shirt, shorts, socks, underwear, sandals, and watch that Jason would have been wearing that night. The shirt that was found was the exact same shirt that Jason was wearing in a picture from earlier that night before he left his apartment. A small spot of blood was found on the band of his underwear and on the tag of his shorts, but these spots are incredibly small, and I'll also post pictures of them for you to look at. From the pictures, it looks like these spots might have happened when Jason got out of his car and removed his clothing. These spots are definitely not enough blood to be considered fatal or a serious injury. While searching the car, the police also found Jason's wallet and his phone, which was between his car seat and the center console. The phone was still working, and it had a signal when it was found. With all of these items left behind, the police wanted to investigate how Jason's car wrecked, and whether another car might have been involved. By examining the scene, the police ultimately believed that Jason overcorrected on the gravel road and spun off, which caused his car's rear end to hit the trees and fence. I think the location of Jason's phone in the car might be a crucial piece of evidence as to what happened in this wreck. We know that Jason turned off his Waze app and turned on Snapchat as he drove down East Austin Street. So I think that it's very likely he was distracted by his phone, and that is what caused his wreck. Either he was changing apps and lost control on the road, or he dropped his phone and was trying to reach it when he wrecked the car. Now that they had a pretty good idea of how Jason wrecked, they needed to figure out how to find him. The Caldwell County Sheriff's Office partnered with the Texas Rangers and EquiSearch to search for him with the use of scent tracking dogs, ATVs, helicopters, boats, and horses. A total of 20,000 acres were searched, and the dogs were able to track Jason to 2 nearby locations. One was a nearby pond, and the other was an abandoned house not far from the wreck site. This pond was eventually drained, but no sign of Jason was found in the pond or the abandoned house. There was also no evidence that another car had been involved in Jason's accident, or that his clothes had been removed forcefully. With no results on Salt Flat Road, EquiSearch officially suspended their search of the area in January of 2021, until they have more credible information to lead them to a new area. When asked about why they were suspending the search, EquiSearch explained that they believed they had searched the entire area and had no other leads. If you look at this road on a map, Salt Flat Road is an unforgiving area. There's a nearby oil field, and workers mostly use this road to get in and out of their station. There are multiple old wells, creeks, ponds, and saltwater disposals in this area that Jason could have accidentally fallen down in the dark of the night. When I try to break down my theory of what happened to Jason, I always come back to the items in his car and the mysterious undressing. If Jason couldn't find his phone in the dark and decided to walk in search of a phone to use or someone to help him with his car, why would he leave his wallet and backpack behind? Why would he then undress just 900 feet down the road? With the damage done to his car, it's very likely that Jason might have sustained a head injury, and he might have been confused about what he was doing. But where could he have possibly walked to that EquiSearch wouldn't have found him? The time between Jason's wreck and the finding of his car by the volunteer firemen was only 45 minutes, so how far could he have traveled in that short amount of time? Of course, when I first saw that he had undressed, I immediately considered hypothermia. Even in Texas, the temperature was reported to be between 36 and 43 degrees Fahrenheit that night, and many people remember that the wind was specifically terrible that evening. Hypothermia can occur even in weather that is above freezing, and the wind factor can increase the likelihood of hypothermia because the wind carries the heat away from your body faster than it can generate it. After the initial stages of hypothermia, the body's instinct 25% of the time is to undress and run away from the area. This is called paradoxical undressing, and Live Science explained this phenomenon in an article by explaining that to shut down the loss of heat from extremities, the body induces vasoconstriction, which is a contraction of the blood vessels. The muscles that are involved in this eventually get too tired, which causes a warm blood rush to the extremities of the body, and this hot flash makes them undress. Jason wasn't dressed for cold weather that night. He was wearing a short-sleeved t-shirt, shorts, sandals, and he didn't have a jacket with him. This is the only theory I can come up with for why he would have undressed, unless he was suffering from a head injury after leaving the car. Of course, another theory that I had to consider was that Jason decided to end his own life. He had just separated from a girlfriend that he loved, and he might have been unsure about his future at school. However, I don't think that this is the case. The pond would be the most likely place for him to die by suicide, especially after undressing himself. But the pond was drained and Jason wasn't found. Just like in the Bryce Lespisa case, I really can't settle on a theory of what happened to Jason. I think that it's most likely he suffered a head injury and began walking away from the wreck to try and find help, but something happened to him on the way. There have been so many cases where searches were completed for years and nothing was found, only for a missing person to be found in that same location later. Just recently, a young boy named Noah Donahoe went missing in Belfast after falling off of his bicycle without a helmet. Shortly after the fall, witnesses saw the same boy cycling into the woods completely naked, and his body was eventually found. So I have to believe that hypothermia or a head injury was the cause of Jason's undressing. The details of this case reminded me so much of the Mara Murray and Bryce Lespisa cases. Events so mysterious that they keep you up at night, sorting through possible theories and scenarios. However, this case